Okay, in this video, I'm going to cover measures 22 up to about 25, and I'll start the audio in 21 to get you into it. We're going to see a number of sequences that Bach uses, also a return of the fully diminished 7 chord. So here we go. Okay, let's talk about what's happening. First thing I want to point out is the use of sequences. And at the end of measure 21, the last couple of beats, you've got sequential material starting in the upper voice. And you see this sequence of 3 legs. You've got this ascending thing happening, 3 notes, and then a skip down a third, and then a jump up a fourth, and then a descending scale. You see it again immediately following, and it's just up a step, except that the second half of the sequence is ascending instead of descending, like you get at the end of measure 21. Technically, this isn't, a proper sequence or a true sequence, but I think it's fair to say that for a listener, it is certainly sequential. In the last 2 beats of measure 22, you get a true version of the sequence, at least what you have at the end of measure 21. And then in the next line, in measure 23, you have a repeat of the same material from 21. And I should point out as well, measure 23 is exactly the same as measure 5 from earlier in the piece. In measure 21, it is the same material. You can see the rhythms are the same, the melodic contour is the same, or very similar, but the pitches are different, right? Measure 23 is a fourth higher than what happens in 21. Now, measure 5 is identical to measure 23, and I think that's worth noting. Okay, same exact notes, same rhythms, everything. Okay, so in the case of Bach, we think of him as this great musical genius, and certainly he is. But music does repeat a lot, and what you see here is Bach just using exactly the same stuff that he already introduced in measure 5. Okay, now in measure 24, we have a restatement of what we just heard in measure 22. You can see we're starting at different pitch levels, but the material is the same. The contour is the same. The intervals are the same. I do want to point out here harmonically, in measure 22, if you look at the bass line, the outline of the chord that you could build on the lower voice, you end up F natural, D natural, B, and then G sharp. If you spell the G sharp as an A flat, then you get a fully diminished 7 B chord, okay, up here. And then in measure 24, if you look at the bass line, B, G natural, E, and C sharp, this is a fully diminished 7 C sharp chord, okay? And so fully diminished 7s, remember, they are stacked minor thirds. So the intervals are symmetrical, and any note can be used as the root of the chord. So they can go in a lot of different places. In measure 22, fully diminished, a B fully diminished 7 chord, most commonly probably you would see it go to A minor. And in fact, that's what it does. The beginning of measure 23, pretty clear A minor harmony happening there. The B you could analyze as a passing tone. And then in measure 24 with the C sharp fully diminished 7 chord, you would expect it maybe to go to D or D minor. And in fact, look here in measure 25, that's what it does. The E can be a neighbor tone, lower neighbor tone, and you get the outline of a D minor triad. So I think that's worth mentioning. Also, in measure 25, let me get a different color here. You see more sequential material developing. So you get these little 4-note motives, and this continues all the way until the beginning of measure 26. I know the intervals are not exactly true. There are sometimes smaller or slightly smaller and or slightly bigger leaps, but when you listen to it, clearly these are sequences, and the listener will hear them as such. So you get, starting in measure 25, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leg sequence that will bring you into new material in measure 26. And yeah, you start to see a lot of this sequential development in this part of the piece, something Bach does quite commonly, and sometimes even the sequences will overlap with one another, and it's pretty amazing stuff. So that's it for this video. I'll continue on and get into measures 26 and onward. Take care, and I'll see you next time.